All right. Hello, I'm Olivia Iovino. I am the inventor and founder of Zen Mittenz, and I'm here today with Elizabeth Eichhorn. She's Senior and Entrepreneur Account Executive for IFundWomen, and she's also the former CEO of Mary Lee Kitchen, LLC, and Ampersand Dinner. So, hello, Elizabeth. So happy to have you here.
Hi, Olivia. How are you?
Wonderful. Thank you. So, if you could just tell us a little bit about what you do and what businesses you've run.
Absolutely. So, like you mentioned, I work for iFundWomen and I help oversee their sales strategy at iFundWomen. I am also one of their coaches that I get to actually work with women entrepreneurs around the world on how to crowdfund, as well as help with their sales strategies on how they can actually get more funds and revenue for their own businesses. And I am a former CEO and founder of my own company. So my former companies were all around food and the food product line and how we actually, as people, need food for our bodies and our dietary restrictions. So I created a product line based on my own personal food allergies. And then we created a gathering space and a community that was able to expand from 4 people to over 1,900 people within a year. And we expanded into 8 different cities around the United States.
That's amazing.
Thank
So, how
you.
did you get your business ideas?
Well, a lot of times it just came from my own personal recognizing I I had a pain point of there wasn't anything for me in the market for my own food allergies. I got diagnosed with celiac disease and a corn allergy and avocado allergy and allergic to basically all grains about 12 years ago. And at the time, my allergist, and I was living in Los Angeles, my allergist basically looked at me and said, "Good luck." And this is somebody who had spent years in the allergy field. But the combination of both wheat and corn and not being able to allow that into my system was really difficult in the American like diet. It was difficult to find anything in the American diet. So I decided to go back to school, get a certificate of business administration, and get a certificate of nutrition. And I decided to start my own business. So I initially started as a catering company. Then we launched into a product line, and then we launched into these gatherings. And so I came up with the ideas because there wasn't an answer for me.
So, filling a void in the market.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, it was me and Mary's Crackers. If anybody is familiar with Mary's Crackers, I got to interview them and become friends with them because there was very few people in the same space. But it feels strange because people hear about gluten free all the time now and how popular it is. You can go into any restaurant, but 12 years ago, that wasn't the case. Like you really couldn't go anywhere, and you had to be very careful about um, any kind of like prepackaged items. But not only that, but corn is a massive subsidy that's used here in the United States, and so it's found in anything from creamers to um, I mean, any grains. Like corn is in a lot of products.
Hmm. Okay. So, what were the sort of business steps you took to turn your idea into a business?
That's a great question. Well, I didn't know anyone who had started a business. And so I knew I needed help, which is why I went back to school to get some kind of hopefully foundation for that. I talked to a lawyer who that was my first, stepping stone. The next was I got a CPA. Thankfully, by the advice of the lawyer, they were like, a CPA is going to be your best friend. And sure enough, I actually take that advice and carry that on to a lot of my clients now. Um, and then there is something called the Small Business Development Center that I worked with them. And most cities have an SBDC in their area. It's government funded, um, usually a government funded business center that is going to give you a mentor, help you with some of your ideas and make them into a reality. So from there, that's how I started. And I just did a lot of testing and a lot of failing. I am not scared to just kind of go out and talk to people. So I was just going to see what happened and see what worked.
So then, with the wisdom you earned as you went on the job, is there any path you took that really turned into a dead end that a woman kind of following in your footsteps could benefit from hearing?
Absolutely. Um, yes, the dead end that I was it's funny that I talk about how like what my job is now and doing sales strategy. And I work in spreadsheets. This is not something that was me 10 years ago. I did not understand the importance of metrics and the importance of keeping data. And so I am going to be very candid and tell you that I want every person who listens, and you included, Olivia, like watching, like look at your numbers and making sure that that is something that you do. Because I didn't do that until it was too late. And um, I also, so that's step one, making sure that you're like paying attention to numbers. And then the other thing that I was going to mention is don't just go get a credit card and thinking that it's going to help you pay for your business, because the reality is you only have 6 months, maybe a year. Like you have a time to pay it back. And so oftentimes we think, yeah, I can do it. My business is going to succeed. But we haven't thought about the reality of what if your business doesn't succeed, or what if you don't get the revenue? You're not only out the amount of money you spent, but the fees and the interest that has been accrued since like you have actually purchased or you've gotten and taken out that credit card. So I really recommend not taking out a credit card um, to actually spend on a business until you get some revenue going on understanding your sales.
Okay, so pre-revenue business cards are out.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. Yep, they are. They're out. Um, I recommend going into crowdfunding, which is actually what I did after I didn't do. I took out my credit card and then I was like, what do I do now to pay for my credit card? So I did do a crowdfunding campaign and I successfully raised on a crowdfunding campaign.
Wonderful.
Mhm.
That's really good advice to hear. So how did you find those first consultants, the lawyer and the CPA that you were talking about?
I am lucky enough to have the lawyer was my uncle, and the CPA is somebody that I went to church with, actually. And so that is how. But what that also means is that I'm not scared to ask the people around me within my own network to help utilize their resources because I think we all have them. We just sometimes are scared to ask the people in our inner circle rather than going outside. Sometimes it's easier for us to talk to a perfect stranger to ask for help than it is, our neighbor or a family member.
Yes. Um, Especially if you hear, we love you, so we're telling you, don't quit your day job.
Yeah, exactly. And then you just think, yeah, but it's not about that. I really just need your advice about this. Yes, absolutely agree with that.
So, have you had any barriers specific to being a female entrepreneur?
So, being a female entrepreneur, I haven't had as much barriers as I have about my age. I think at the same time, I started my business at 26 and I would go into meetings where it felt like people would just stare at me like, you're too young. We're not going to give you any help. We're not going to do anything for you. I remember, so that felt like a huge barrier was my age. I will say I had a meeting with an investor, and it was a man who I just remember him taking out like his dry erase marker and going over to his whiteboard and deciding like, well, I'm just going to basically tear apart your business and your idea for you. And it was that moment of complete mansplaining. I was really early stage at that point, and it was somebody who the SBDC had connected with me with. And it just felt really frustrating. And I remember just getting back into my car, both angry and completely devastated, thinking, okay, what do I do now? I'm not going to go anywhere. I'm not making the money. Apparently nobody would want to like invest in me, and I don't know where to go. And so I think the imposter syndrome completely like it it set in because yeah, so I think that was the barrier, like as being a female founder, a woman founder, that was definitely something that I faced.
Okay. And what about any opportunities from being a woman founder?
Um, I mean, I get to work at IFundWomen now. That's a pretty cool thing. So my job actually led me to my current job. So like my previous ownership of understanding the pain points of my clients because I've been there. I understand how hard it is to find money, to raise money through crowdfunding. I understand the difficulty of asking people because I've done that. And it has helped me do my job really well with IFundWomen. And it also has helped me understand how to be a coach. And so that's what I really appreciate about what I was learning.
That's great that your career path is sort of organically growing based on your experiences rather than
Mhm.
sort of a manipulation.
Mhm.
That's very cool.
Yeah. I
So
will
what are
say,
your oh,
I was just going to say, we never know what is going to happen next. And we don't know what, I think the meeting that I just explained about with this man who's telling me my idea was just, not great. I would have never thought I would be where I am now. So keep going. That is my biggest takeaway that I can tell people. Just keep going. You don't know what doors are going to open.
so my next question was, what are your three best pieces of advice for women entrepreneurs? I think we just heard one of
Yeah.
them, but
Yeah,
so do you have a couple more?
I do. My mom actually said this. So my mom would say if the door is too hard to push open, then sometimes it's not the door that you need to push open right now. It means that sometimes you need to go and see if there's another door that's a little bit easier. And I didn't want to take that advice until I realized, like, what if I just push something open? It is sometimes okay to stop what you're doing and think if there's something else around. I think the other piece of advice, I am married and I want to make sure that people who are looking out, like both wanting to go out and do a business, and they may have children, they may have a family, realize that a startup life can be really draining on a relationship. And so make sure that you don't always just talk about your business because that's your spouse isn't necessarily supposed to be the person in it. Like that's the other piece of advice. And then finally, that is what led me into actually hiring my own like business coach is I would always go to my husband for as my sounding board. And we were like, oh, wait, no, that's not his role. And so I finally got a business coach and having that third party and somebody who is going to help my business move forward and actually listen to me um, gave me more confidence than anything. I just needed somebody to believe in my idea. Um, and that was really powerful.
Well, that's very good advice. I feel like for me, that's pertinent right now. I have been asked multiple times, "Oh, so what is your husband doing with the business, or what are his thoughts on the business?" And I wonder, would a man be asked that question about his wife?
Mhm. Mhm. That's a great point. And and what do you say to them when that happens?
He is an amazing support, and the way that he is helping my business is he is watching the baby when I need to do things, and he is helping with more of the cooking and cleaning than I do. So he is an amazing support, but the business is mine.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that. And my husband and I have a very different kind of relationship than the June Cleaver Leave It to Beaver. I am very much the business person who that is where I thrive. And I want to make sure that that's what we do. And so he gives me the space, just like it sounds like your husband is able to give you that space to do that because that helps me be the whole person, right? Like we want to continue to do the things to help other people and get our creations out there. that's a pretty amazing and empowering act to do. So I'm excited for you.
Absolutely. Well, I am so glad you took this time. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's such a pleasure.
All right. So I look forward to seeing more of IFundWomen campaigns and what's going on there.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Olivia, for having me.